Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy magazine-style deep dives told in a clear, text-to-speech friendly format, please like this video, subscribe, and tap the join button to support the show. Today we're unpacking a story that many of you have requested, the quiet storm surrounding Gups Ozzy and Baris Arduç. They married after a long, steady relationship, built a home life that included their daughter, Jan Asya, and, unlike many celebrity couples, kept the spotlight pointed at their work rather than their living room. Lately, though, whispers have turned into headlines. Are they splitting up? Are they working things out? What is rumor, what is reality, and what belongs to them alone? I'll walk you through the timeline, the statements, the speculation, and the very human priorities at the heart of it all. Let's get into it. First, the context. Gups and Baris have always been a study in contrasts that complement each other. She's a multi-hyphenate writer, actor, comic voice, who can take a blank page and produce a world. He's a leading man with a grounded intensity, the kind of presence that turns reaction shots into dialogue. Together they built a low-drama, high-privacy unit, appearing at premieres when necessary, disappearing from social feeds when the work demanded it. When Jan Asya arrived, their public posture grew even more careful. Photographs were curated, captions were measured, and interviews bent politely away from domestic questions. It was the kind of boundary setting that rarely makes news because it's not loud. It simply is. Then, slowly, the weather changed. Followers noticed fewer joint frames and more solo updates. Work trips didn't overlap. Questions in interviews about how the family is doing brought gentle smiles and brief answers. Nothing there is unusual for two professionals navigating intense production schedules, but in the celebrity ecosystem, silence has a way of turning into a canvas others feel entitled to paint. Tabloids filled the gaps with guesses. Anonymous accounts claimed certainty. Even harmless details, like a missing ring in a gym photo, or a caption that sounded reflective, were treated as clues in a case no one had filed. Against that background, a single, short comment from Gups resonated far beyond its length. Asked directly about private life, she responded with her trademark warmth but unmistakable firmness. She didn't owe the public an explanation, and she wasn't going to give one. That sentence did two things at once. It reminded everyone that artists are human beings with limits. And it raised the temperature of speculation in places where boundaries are taken as bait. Within hours, social feeds were crowded with competing narratives. Some insisted a breakup was imminent. Others argued it was simply a hectic season. Still others tried to turn unverified gossip into a storyline involving imaginary villains. In other words, the usual digital storm. Here is what can be said without stretching past what is known. Both Gups and Baris have continued showing up for their work with the exact professionalism that built their reputations in the first place. On set and on stage, colleagues describe them as prepared, considerate, and focused. When family comes up, the tone is consistent. They care about their daughter's stability, and any decision they make is filtered through that lens. That priority is ordinary, and yet it is the most important element in the story. It explains why there are no marathon live streams, no reactive posts, no sudden revelations. When a child's routine is at stake, the grown-ups in the room tend to move quietly. It's worth pausing here to notice how quickly modern attention turns uncertainty into spectacle. Part of that is the architecture of social media. Algorithms reward heat, not light. Part of it is the myth-making around celebrity couples. We don't just watch their films and series. We script their home life in our heads. But a marriage isn't a season finale, and a short public comment isn't a cliffhanger. Two people can be working through a complicated period without inviting a live audience into the room. In fact, that is usually the healthiest path forward. What about the darker versions of the rumor mill, the ones that try to assign blame? They're exactly that, rumors. None of the parties involved has presented a narrative of betrayal, and repeating unverified claims doesn't turn them into facts. What we do have are choices that point to a shared ethic. You can hear it in the way Gups sets limits without cruelty, in the way Baris avoids sparring through statements, and in the consistent emphasis people close to them place on co-parenting. That doesn't sound like a war. It sounds like two adults protecting a small child's world while they adjust the shape of their own. Professionally, both are entering phases where nuance will serve them. For Baris, this kind of personal turbulence often translates into performances with more inner life, fewer grand gestures, more lived-in pauses. Directors will lean into that, offering characters who reveal themselves through thought rather than speech. For Gups, these seasons tend to sharpen the writing. Her comedies, even at their silliest, have always had a streak of truth about the absurd ways people try to love each other. A writer who is learning hard lessons often returns to the page with cleaner eyes and a deeper sense of timing. Expect that tonal balance, heart and bite, to intensify. Meanwhile, the practical machinery whirs in the background. If there are legal steps, they unfold on paper, in offices, between people whose job is to make complexity navigable. If there are agreements about schedules, holidays, or school events, they are made in kitchens and calendars, not in captions. Healthy co-parenting rarely photographs well. It looks like drop-offs that happen on time, like two adults sitting on the same side of a problem instead of facing off. Those moments don't rack up likes, but they build a child's sense of safety. And every indication is that both parents understand that responsibility. Why does any of this matter to people who are not in the room? Because public figures, willingly or not, model how transitions can be handled. It is tempting, under pressure, to turn private pain into public defense. It is satisfying, in the short term, to set the record straight with specifics that later become permanent. It takes more discipline to say less, to allow time to do what statements cannot, and to trust that your work and your conduct will speak more clearly than any thread. So far, that's the path these two seem to be choosing. Let's also acknowledge the fans who are choosing well. Among the noise, there is a strong current of compassion running through comment sections, people reminding each other to be kind, to value the artist's contributions, to wait for verified updates rather than amplify speculation. There are notes celebrating favorite scenes and favorite lines, messages thanking Gups for the laughter and Baris for the heart, and, importantly, reminders that building a life is difficult even when no one is watching. Those comments don't trend. But they matter. What could happen next? There are a few possibilities that follow naturally from the choices we've seen. They might release a joint statement that echoes the themes already present. Respect, privacy, focus on their daughter, and gratitude for support. They might choose separate statements aligned in tone. Or they might continue saying very little, allowing their actions, stable schedules, consistent work, calm public appearances, to be the only update anyone needs. Any of those paths would fit the pattern established so far. If you are watching this hoping for a twist, I can offer a different kind of ending. Maturity is the twist. In an era that rewards spectacle, two well-known people decided not to perform a crisis. They decided, instead, to keep caring about the same small person, to keep doing the work that sustains them, and to keep their most important conversations offline. Whether their marriage is changing shape or finding a second wind is theirs to reveal or to retain. Our role, as viewers who admire their art, is not to pry, but to pay attention to the work when it arrives and to extend grace in the meantime. Before we close, a note for the media: stories like this can be told without turning people into characters. You can provide context without inventing motives. You can quote what was actually said instead of offering dramatic readings of silence. The public will still click. And they'll trust you next time, too. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you prefer coverage that favors verified facts over viral guesses, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. As soon as there's an official update from Gups Ozi or Baris Ardak, or a concrete development related to their projects, I'll bring it to you with the same care and clarity. Until then, be well, be kind in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.